Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.
Hello, welcome to Don't Whistle at Night. We're broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. All credit to Ray Voss from Codega's Codex of Curiosity. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. We appreciate that. We feel more of a podcast now. We appreciate it. We're blessed. Thank you. My co-host Darren is he's stuck somewhere between New Mexico and Texas right now. So he'll be 30 minutes to 40 minutes late. So yeah. So he'll be in pretty soon. Um, Tonight we have a really great guest. His name is Shanclen of Shadow Productions, paranormal investigator, um, land protector, and storyteller. I'm very blessed and honored to have him here tonight to join us and to share some stories and becoming part of the family here at Don't Whistle at Night. And I am very happy to have him here. Without further ado, Mr. Sean Clan.
Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. Yes.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's right here, Von Koshel. First one here again. Only thing to look forward to on Sundays.
Hey,
Appreciate that, Vaughn.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Kurt W75. Where's my dudes? What's up, Kurt? Oh yeah. Darren's gonna be a little late. Just FYI, guys. We'll keep you guys tickled and entertained till he gets here. Owl 13. Hello, Owl. Hello. The Cedric Willie, love the new intro, Don. Hey, Lee, what's up, man? Hey, appreciate it, brother. Hey, what's up, Melody Alvarez? Hey, how's it going? Let's see here. Intro is fire. Hell yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kurt W75. Woo!
That
All
was a good
right.
intro. That was a good intro.
Oh, man. Hey, I kept watching all day today. I was like, whoa, man, this is cool. Yeah. So, all around excited intro. And you right here, the guest of honor, Mr. Sean Clan.
Woo! Let's go. Let's do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Mike's all you. It's all you now. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, we're gonna start off with an honor song here. I'm just kidding. No. So, okay, it's a customary that we do an offering here, and we do a land acknowledgement where we are, and it's no. Hello everybody. My name is Sean Clen, and you just kind of want me to just tell a little bit about myself.
Oh yeah, yeah, introduce yourself, where you come from, and then you can start off from your life from the beginning, and then
Me,
take your time.
I
Take your
saw a
time.
bright light in the sky, and that was I was born. I'm just kidding. Okay, so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Sean Clen. I am a Shihin Shlin, Ado Beligana Bushichin, Ashe Ada Shiche, Ado Beligana Ada Chanela. I come from Jitlijin, Twin Jona Hulye. And I come from Black Mesa. For those of you who do not know or speak Navajo, I introduce my clans. My main clan is the Salt Clan. And I come from Black Mesa, Twin Jonah area, so of the Navajo Nation. So, yeah, I kind of grew up in a border town. Went back and forth between there to the reservation. Grew up traditional in our traditional ways of the Diné and the Navajo Nation that we have here. Yeah, it was just a lot of growing up that way on the reservation. You experience a lot of things, especially like when you go to ceremonies at a young age too. It's it's always very interesting kind of some of the things you're exposed to at such a young age, and it was always very interesting to kind of be in a border town to where like you have different ethnicities and races kind of going to school at the same time, and gotta explain to them. It's like, all right, yeah, I missed school because I had to go do a ceremony. They're like, what's a ceremony? And oh yeah, well, this is medicine man. He was chased off some mystical being, demon or whatever in my house and everything. And so they're like, what? So
Yeah.
it's kind of stuff like that, So yeah, my life story is pretty much that, bounced around a little bit at a very young age, different locations, different cities with my parents. But ended up coming here in Winslow, Arizona, gosh, second or third grade, I would say. And then yeah, just stayed here ever since I graduated high school. Yeah, and then just went back and forth between the res whenever there were ceremonies or anything like that. And yeah, pretty much, at a certain point, I have a lot of siblings in my family, so my older brother became a medicine man, Hatathi in our tribe, and, he specialized in going, I guess, going against the dark. They call those the Hashkes ceremonies or ghost busting ceremonies. So, yeah, so I became his helper for many years, and, yeah, so just kinda going throughout all the journeys together throughout all those years. Ended up making a YouTube channel, Shanclen Shadow Productions, kind of telling stories about my experiences, things I've seen over the years, and just trying to build a community to where a lot of people can kind of come together and share stories from different nations, different countries, and just a lot of amazing stuff like that. And try to bring light to the world that there's a spiritual side to a lot of things out there. And, yeah, I can became pretty popular with my, Truth of Skinwalkers video because I kinda got sick and tired of seeing people use the term skinwalker on their cat or their dog? So
Yeah.
yeah, so pretty much, yeah, like, I told people because like, in all those Hishkesh ceremonies and everything that we done, of course, we're gonna deal with a lot of skinwalkers, and you don't even have to be traditional to, be exposed to skinwalkers on the Navajo res, and so yeah, so pretty much wanted to set the record straight, tell some stories of my experiences and everything with them, and yeah, just kind of took off from there. And yeah, I'm pretty blessed to where I'm at now with my YouTube channel. So gonna be doing some did started doing paranormal investigations too. That was one of the main things that I was like, okay, grew up watching, a lot of these Hollywood TV shows and really feel like they're missing a lot of spiritual interactions because they just don't know how to interact with spirits really. It's fairly new to them as far as for when it comes to conversations and interactions. So I was like, hey, let's throw in a little bit of our teachings and how we communicate with spirits in there too. So, I've been on a couple TV shows. I was on Ghost Adventures twice, Unidentified with Demi Lovato. Got to meet the Wraith Chasers from Travel Channel too. I have two more TV shows, two more TV shows coming up, but I signed NDAs and I can't really say anything about it. But yeah, two more TV shows coming up. But yeah, it's pretty much where I'm at now. I'm just a dude. I'm not a medicine man or nothing like that. I'm just a dude that's experienced a lot of shit on the res.
No, I'm just kidding. Let's go over here, right here. I was
Yeah,
kidding.
man, let's get the cedar out. Let's put
That's what's
on
up.
some cedar right here for this one.
Oh yeah, let's get the cedar ash over here. That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. Like you were saying, like Hollywood, you know, uh, no disrespect to our Hollywood listeners out there, but you guys could use some of his Native American authenticity.
Mhm,
Like some real scary stuff, like some real stories from what we all have here and
mhm.
like what a lot of you listeners hear a lot here on Don't Whistle at Night. And may I add, your channel is fire. I watch it on every regular basis.
Thank you.
Darren and I, I'm sure he has a lot of questions to ask you. So for me, first of all, my wife is a Shane too, so you're my brother, by the
Hey,
way.
ahoy.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that made us like make this podcast as well with the all the misinformation. You know,
Mm,
like everyone's thinking this is a skinwalker, that's a skinwalker. Like, no, that's something else.
mm,
Like the things that we're talking about a lot is like different tribes. They have their own shapeshifters. It
mm,
could be a different tribe, whatever tribes in that area. Go ask them.
yeah.
Instead of making up your own assumptions.
Mm,
Ask the original people that were there first. That'd be the first move.
yeah. It goes
uh,
into a lot of like the interactions of with his spirits, because if you know their name and you know exactly who they are, like they'll be like, okay, this person actually took the time to get to know my name. And they're like, or otherwise, like you call them a wrong name, they're like, Psh, forget this guy. He doesn't even know my name. I'm not gonna talk to him.
Oh yeah. It's all about humility first off.
Mm,
Like it's always an honor hearing another guest's story.
yeah.
I think I'm guilty of being quiet too much because I'm just like a little kid listening again. Like, oh yeah, I forgot my host. I forgot. All right, no questions. That's why we like these lives. They can help ask questions.
Yes.
And Kurt W75, Sean Clinton, Dad. Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you for your time and information tonight. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
nice to meet you.
likewise. Yep. Kurt W75. You can go to YouTube and look up Shadow Productions. He has a
Mm,
lot of good things over there. A lot of good information that needs to be taken in and passed along
mm,
for your safety. Because there's things that you can't see out there, and they're real. There's things that you don't know out there and that we don't know yet, but we're here on this journey with everyone. Information like Mr. Sean Clem here. He
mm.
can definitely, answer any questions you guys got. Throw any questions you got, please, please. And
Yeah.
let's see here. Kurt Coyote, Crazy Coyote 1313, mother-in-law hooked me with some mutton stew. Hey, you lucky guy,
I know
rubbing it in.
I'm all hungry over here.
I know, same here, same
Send us
here.
a bowl. Send us a
Mr.
bowl.
Oh yeah, for real. What's up, Mr. Curly? Janine Weaver. Hello, guys. Yep. Let's see here. Sean Clan. I think I've seen him on Paranormal Files.
Oh yeah,
Thumbs up.
yeah,
Nice smile.
yeah,
Oh, that's good. I'm gonna have to check that out now.
yeah. That was a
Paranormal Files.
it was a really cool collab I did with Colin. He just hit me up, and then he has his own kind of paranormal channel too. He does a lot of crime and real world, like a lot of present day paranormal stuff. So he's a really cool dude. Didn't I met him over in Superstition Mountains, did an interview with him. So yeah, shout out to Colin. He's a cool dude.
Oh yeah, shout out. Definitely gotta check that out. Kurt W75. Yes, spread the truth and not false BS. Doesn't get us anywhere. Actually, it sets us back. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
definitely. Maria Augustine, good evening, Maria. Good evening. See here, BCast sitting here eating popcorn with ash all over my face. Let's go, spare
Hey,
me,
hey.
nay.
Pass the jar. I need some too. Let's get some here.
Oh yeah, Mr. Curly, what's up, Mr. Sean Clan? I've been listening to for about 6 months. Love your stories,
Oh, thank you,
definitely.
thank you.
All
Yo.
right, oh yeah, we looks like we caught up with the comment section, and you can take us back to your very first beginning, like your chronicles of Sean Clan here live.
All right. Well, like okay, so hang on, let me get my mind going here. I feel like
Yeah,
SpongeBob going through the filing cabinet of all my memories and stuff like that. So
oh yeah.
yeah, I
Let's get
like
back in Nam.
back in no, I'm gonna just start getting all PTSD. If you see me spaced out, just take it over from there. Just kidding. We're off into the
Watch my six. Watch my
distance.
six. No, it's good.
Yeah, so I've experienced a lot of paranormal stuff in my life. It's when it comes to like going to ceremonies and stuff like that, you sometimes, you see things, you experience things, because from what I was told, Hatathlis and medicine people, whenever they do these ceremonies, what they call in the English tongue is they thin the veil to where the spiritual world and the physical worlds kind of combine like that, to where medicinal people, Hatathlis, can be able to speak with spirits. And When it comes to that, it's growing up as a little kid, before my brother became a Hatathli, whenever we were dealing with something, we would call upon a medicine man to come bless the house, bless us and everything. And when it comes to that, it goes to one of my videos that I talked about is I kind of grew up in a haunted house and being able to I'm not at the time I wasn't gifted at all. And from what I was told from a long time ago is that children are very open when it comes to seeing spiritual beings and deities like that. It's I guess the theory how it goes is that they're still a little bit closer to creator from when they were born. When they're born, they're very pure. They're like a descendant of creator himself. And so kind of as they grow older, they kind of lose that connection with the creator. Not so much as like lose a connection with the creator, but like as far as for seeing stuff spiritually and everything, they start to gradually lose that as they grow older. So that's why you see kids like a lot of times they see something and they're like, "Yeah, I made a best friend. He's my imaginary friend." And they point in the corner and your dog starts barking in the corner and it's all a demon or something like that.
Oh
So seeing those things kind of growing up and all that, it really opened my eyes to where it was kind of normal to be able to have the mindset of communicating with spirits, having the mindset of respecting the land, respecting the earth, respecting yourself, your loved ones, your family, and relatives and ancestors that have passed on. And it wasn't until I started kind of going to school that that mindset isn't very common when it comes to outside of the tribe's teachings and everything. And so, like growing up and seeing spiritual beings all the time, like you go to your friends, and they're like you tell them stories of things you've seen. And like I said, I grew up in a haunted house. So it was located near a church that was a mortuary kind of thing. So a lot of those like it was right next door. So sometimes that's where they would keep the bodies and they would do services and stuff over there as well. So sometimes some of those spirits from that location would come over and haunt us and freak us out and scare us. And come to find out later on from a medicine man too, was that whole area too where I grew up at is an old burial ground that's right there too, very very deep underground. And I guess those spirits kind of come up and they go and they freak us out. I remember some of the tales that we had was like I had my cousins over for I think it was a holiday or something like that. And then so their family went to go, I think, to go eat with my parents, and I don't know what they did. They went to go PTs or whatever, go hang out at the bar or something like that, and then they're just having a good time or go watch some movies or something. And so, how it is, like kids, the kids all just stay home and we watch movies and stuff. And so we ended up falling asleep.
yourself.
Yeah, take care of
Oh,
yourself. You guys got here's some pizza. You guys will be all right. You know. And so we ended up watching a movie and we all fell asleep in my room. And in the middle, we had one of those old it's not really old, but like they still have them. But it's like a water dispenser that had those 5-gallon water jugs on there in the kitchen.
mm,
And we were sleeping in the middle of the night. Like we heard that whole 5-gallon water jug get pushed over and fall over. And all this water just gets sprayed everywhere. So we're like, we wake up, my older brother's like, what the fuck? And this is before he got his gift. And then we all get up and we go make our way over to the kitchen area and I turn on all the lights and everything. And that water jug is still right there. It wasn't knocked over or anything like that. And we're just like, we heard the water. We heard like it's a very distinct sound when you hear doom, 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 like
yeah.
if you like refill those waters and everything, you knock it, it makes a certain sound. So that's the only sound it could make in the whole kitchen. We're just like, what the heck? And so my cousins were like,
Mm,
you live in a haunted house, bro? What's going on? And they were kind of like freaking out. And so again, another time that happened was one of my cousins saw a shadow figure inside of the doorway to my room. This was a separate time that they spent the night. And they started screaming and freaking out. We're like, what is that? What is that? And then like I wake up and I look and I see it for a brief second, but then it disappears out of nowhere. And then I was just like, what? I thought it was like their dad or my dad or something like that. And then
Yeah.
like they come running down the hallway turning on the lights, and then it was my dad and his dad right there. And then we were just like, weren't you guys just standing in front of our door? They're like, no. And so sure enough, I'm thankful and glad that my parents weren't the ones that were like, oh, you're just imagining things. Oh, it's just your eyes playing tricks. They're like, okay, we're gonna get a medicine man over here, you know. So do a
Yeah, they
protection
believe
prayer.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like that we're gonna get a protection prayer and blessing for you guys in the home too, and try to figure out what's going on. And sure enough, that's when the medicine man started seeing things and told us about it. He's like, there's a dark figure that watches you guys on your roof, and he looks down at you guys and he messes with you guys. We're like, where does he come from? It's like, well, he was buried here a long time ago. You guys desecrated his homeland. I was like, we didn't build this house. You know, I was like, we didn't know about this. So he would
Yeah.
do his ceremonies and everything, but it would last like a good month or two. But then he would tell us everything would be okay. But later on, when my brother got his gift, I come to find out when it comes to living on a burial site like that, when you get a blessing, you're supposed to kinda get it routinely, like, every now and then. It's almost like a shield that you put around your home, yourself, and everything, but you can't get rid of it because that's its final resting place. That's why they say, like, in our traditional teachings, if someone dies in your home, you're not supposed to live there or, live in a burial ground, you gotta go move away and everything. So,
Yeah.
it would kinda just deteriorate that shield that you have over time, and that's something the medicine man never told us until I figured out later from my brother and his trainings that he went through. So, yeah, it was kinda very interesting to kinda experience those things. And, my cousin used to go to school with us too at the same school in elementary, and, like, he would
Mm.
just be quiet. Like, I would just, like, start talking to my friends. I was like, "Yeah, you remember" yeah, I was just like, "You guys don't believe me? He was here too." And then, like, he would be all kinda scared to talk about it and everything. But then he ended up
Oh
agreeing
man.
with me, and then all my other bros were like, "Whoa, that's so cool." And so they all wanted to start coming over to my house, but then my mom's like, "No, don't be bringing your friends over here," because I think she knew it was haunted too, and she didn't want no kids getting traumatized in her house, and then they go crying to their parents or something like that, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want a kid being squirreled around the circle up in the ceiling, that's the last thing you wanna see.
So you kids gotta sign a waiver before you come in this house.
Oh yeah, for real, for real. Oh man.
Yeah,
Sheesh,
so
man.
that's pretty much, my intro into like not so much traditional hauntings, but it was like hauntings and ghosts and spirits that were outside of the tribe, because of that church that kind of came there. It was kind of like a melting pot of different spirits that would kind of come around to and freak us out. And it was honestly very, very weird to kind of go through that. I remember another
Mhm.
time that we were playing hide and seek with my siblings, and yeah, I remember like I found my sister in the laundry room, and so I was like, "Hey, I found you." She's all buried herself underneath all the clothes. And I found her, and she comes walking out of the room, and she's standing in the doorway of the room. And then I was like, okay, cool. I looked this way down the hallway, and then I looked down the other hallway. And as I kind of turned my head and looked this way, I see her, but there's an old Bilagana man standing behind her. And he was kind of just like really like white haired and everything. And I was just like, I did like a double take real quick, and he was gone. And then she was like, what? And I was just like, I didn't want to freak her out. I didn't want to tell her. I was just like, nothing, nothing, come on. And sure enough, that's when I told my mom about it. And then so sure enough, that's when they called medicine man again. It's like, all right, it's time for us to get another blessing for the house and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Just like what Rod says, huh? Put up your barriers.
Hmm.
Oh man. For the listeners out there, the non-native listeners out there, how would you put up your barriers, and what links would you do? What steps would you do to set protection up for yourself and for your household?
For my home, when it comes to spiritual beings, today what I do is I make ceremonial ash. And so like you kind of make a fire, you give offering to the fire. I made a whole video on how that's made and everything, but in a sense, you make a fire, you pray to it because that fire is your protection, it's your warmth, it cooks your food. Fire to us in our tribe is very, very powerful. It has a lot of teachings that go with it too. And so the whole process of a whole solid piece of wood turning and being burned and going into the spirit world too is another thing too. It breaks down into like a powdered ash, white ash. And so you pray to it. You ask it for protection. You ask it for all these things, pretty much what you want it to be done, why it was made, all these things that kind of go through your mind. Like you kind of let your heart speak for you, speak out your heart to it. And when it's done, they say that when the if it's done correctly, then the ash inside of the fire is all pure white. And so once it cools down, you collect some of that, put it in a jar, and then you can put those on your doors, above your doors and windows, like a little tiny mark above it. You start on the east side and you go clockwise around your home, all windows and doors that kind of lead outside. And then yeah, and then I do a couple other things, but I don't want to say, just because if there's some dark things listening out there, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know how to get through that," you know? Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, but pretty much, like that aspect right there of just the ash right there, it goes back. Ash and fire has been here on this earth since the beginning, before humans were even here. So if a lot of our teachings and protections that we have are ancient when it comes to that. So it comes to the very, very beginnings of protections on this earth. And so you use that ash right there. Then if you have nightmares repeatedly, you can put some of that on your forehead, your chest, and then your back too, and then you'll sleep good. And then also some other things too. I use, if ever I feel something weird or negative in my home, I burn some cedar or sweetgrass. And a lot of people say that you should burn sage. And then a lot of people get. I made a video about that one too, but a lot of people would get upset. They're like, "How come my sage isn't working? Sage is bad. It invites demons." I'm like, "You're just using it wrong." Sage is
Mm.
more so for medical purposes. From what I learned is when a Hatachi or medicine man doctors you, it's almost like it neutralizes the energy inside of your body. So it balances out the good and the bad to where they can kind of get rid of that stuff. So when you burn sage, so you smudge yourself, it cleanses you of any darkness inside of you. And so it doesn't get rid of it, it kind of just chills it out, like if there's anything that's kind of there. So it doesn't kind of overpower the good that's in it. So when you burn it inside of your home, you're just like, get rid of this spirit, get rid of this, get rid of that. It's just like it'll just put it to sleep. And because it's a negative force, it's a negative energy, so it neutralizes it, makes it go to sleep in a sense, and makes it powerless, but it doesn't chase it off. And so that's where, like, if you have a bad day and you're just like so angry, you go to work and you're just like have all that bad energy from work, you dealt with a bad customer, you're upset from traffic or something like that, and you come in your home, you have all that negative energy on you. So when you smudge, you get sage and you kind of burn it, then you bless yourself with it, and it chills you out all that negative energy, so it doesn't go inside of your home, it doesn't go into your family members and stuff like that. And then it can be used for doctoring like that as well. So but when it comes to sweetgrass and cedar, it does the same thing, but it's a little bit more pure to where it can actually harm the spirits itself too. And so I like burning and having that smudge and the smoke in the house. If there's ever anything in the spirit inside of the home, you go clockwise around the home, starting from the east, going to the south, west, and north, and back to the east again. I like smoke because it goes into every single nook and cranny. The smell of it, the energy of it goes into everything in your home. So if there's evil that's inside of your home and you try burning it, it has nowhere to hide. So it almost suffocates. It can't breathe because it's burning them. So then they have to end up leaving. Then that's when you put the ash on your doors and windows to make sure it doesn't come back inside. Yeah.
So awesome. My aunt's house out in Mesa. I remember it would get really bad poltergeist, and we would see a little Hispanic kid running around, like around 5 years old to 6 years old. And I remember when it would get really bad, she would burn, I think it was juniper. She would burn the juniper on there, and you can just feel like the house, just like a sigh of relief, and you just
Mm,
can sit down and relax, just
yeah.
like, oh man, it just feels so much good. It feels really good in here. I wish it could stay like this forever. And then, like,
Mm.
after a while, you'll see some corner of your eye make a dash to the kitchen. You're like, oh man, he's back. Oh man, not again. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
so
man, I don't
it'll,
like
like,
that,
chase them
man.
around and stuff, but, like, that's where, if it's still around even after that, that's when you kinda call a little bit more, professional help, like a Tathy or medicine man, because it's just like, "Okay, this thing's a little bit more powerful to where it knows how to, stay alive and stay here even though after you do that." So that's when you kinda call upon a medicine man to come do some ghost busting at your house and stuff like that.
Hmm. Oh man, definitely. Everybody, did y'all hear that? And oh, look at, we got Darren right here. We got a at 7:25, about 20 minutes ago. Apologies, listeners, and to our guest, Shanclen. I would like to take myself as a man of patience. So on occasion, the good Lord would put me to the test by sending me to the IHS. Drive safe, brother. Drive safe. And
Be
Kurt
safe.
W75, he says, do you think with all these astrology events happening, all the full moon, blood moons, solar winds, do you think the veil is thinning, or is thinning and becoming more normality to common folk? Like with all these things going on, do you think the veil's getting thinner and making these creatures are making themselves known more, or do you think it's just the signs and times? What do you say?
I would say it ties into more of the times of what we're dealing with now, and especially with technology and everything that's kind of going on. Everyone is more connected than what they used to be, and so everybody feels what everyone's going through. They can read their Facebook posts or they make a TikTok or something like that. And then also with world events that's kind of going on, there's like a lot of harshness, there's a lot of negativity that's kind of going around in the world, mainly in the US, unfortunately. So
Oh yeah.
you see a lot of that going around. And so Mother Earth feels it. Mother Earth and Father Sky and the spiritual beings, Diné and even astrologically, like across the cosmos, people are feeling this. And that's when, like when there's a lot of negativity like that, darkness likes to thrive in these things. And so they get a little bit more bolder and going into areas of where there's beings of good and light, and they start messing with them. They get a little bit more powerful, and then they start poking and creeping on their territories and stuff. And so that's where a lot of people are also starting to see and witness a lot of like cryptids or certain things like that, beings that of the supernatural. And also, I just really think that people are starting to, with technology, experience and open their minds more to different types of spiritualities, different mindsets that's out there. So that's why, like I'm thankful you have this podcast. That's why I started my channel too. It's like to be able to share our stories, to share our experiences and know that you're not alone. It's just like you experience something, you don't know what the hell's going on, so you YouTube it. You try to find it out on a
Mhm.
YouTube video, and then like that YouTube video may touch on it a little bit, but somebody in the comments says something about this, and then a conversation leads that way, and then you kind of go down a rabbit hole of different spiritual beings and thought processes when it comes to that. So, I always encourage my followers, my viewers, whenever they watch my videos, is be open to other faiths and religions, respect them because they're here on this earth for a reason. Yeah, there may be some bad apples and stuff in the religions and faiths and all that, but don't base the religion or faith on those bad apples, you know what I mean? And it's like uh
Mhm.
if it wasn't for technology, I would never be speaking with somebody from, Australia, Africa, Europe, Russia, Asia, China, Japan, all those places too, South America and to Alaska, hearing all these
Mhm.
stories like this. And so we all give good medicine in that way to each other. So It's a blessing and a curse, social media, so like it can spread
Oh
negativity, but it
yeah,
can also spread love, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
when it comes to
Especially
that,
with the
it's like
tribes. Oh,
yeah, yeah, and it's just like so when it comes to like all these events that's kind of happening, I just think it's of the times what we're dealing with right now. And technology and all this stuff, it's brand new. A lot of people, we've had technology to this scale, I would say about maybe 15, 20 years. And so it's brand new to us. Humans are still trying to figure out how to use it. And a lot of it is just untouched ground. And so, maybe our grandchildren or great grandchildren, they'll learn to master social media and use it in a good way. So that's what I pray for. You know what I
oh yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Just like that cartoon Wreck-It Ralph.
Mhm.
Sometimes the comment sections are good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want
Yeah.
to.
Exactly, man.
Yeah, we got a Mando. How many reasons are out there for voices mimicking in the woods?
Oh,
What do you say about that, Sean Glenn?
there's a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
Like mimicking and voice mimicking like that, especially in the spiritual world, is not uncommon. So, like in my comments, whenever somebody says, "What is a spirit there that's a shadow and wears a hat? What does he do?" And I'm like, there's a lot of spirits that are black or like dressed up in black and then they have a black hat. It's just like it's not like one, it doesn't belong to one spirit. There could be like so many different reasons. And so what I would do is wherever you are, wherever you're from, what woods or anything that you're at, do some research. Some research on the forest, do some research on the people that lived on the land that you're currently living on, whether that be within the past 100 years or the past 1,000 years. Try to think beyond written history and do your research and try to see if there's any tribes, if there's any certain things that are around. And then just try to look at the characteristics. How does it look? How does it act? Like if you can see it, if you can only hear it, certain stuff like that. So, but if it's just like mimicking you and just like, saying some stuff at you and that's all it does and it doesn't like threaten you or anything, I always tell people, say the most outlandish stuff you can ever think of and see if it mimics you. And if it doesn't, being like, you won already. You already won the battle because it's pride and honor will not say those outlandish things back to you. So, as you just kind of gotta beat them in their own game, I guess.
Mhm. And then, like, if rocks, pebbles start getting thrown at you, it could be Sasquatch. And if if that's going on, make sure you talk to yourself. That
Yeah.
helps out. So so they'll leave you alone. You won't end up on missing 411.
Yeah. And then
Who
that's what I
knows what's
said.
really out there?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just like develops, it's just like find the characteristics of this. And the more it shows itself, the characteristics of what it does, how close it comes, and if it has anything else, that's when you can kind of narrow it down a little bit more to the being exactly what you're looking at, what you're dealing with. And then you can try to find somebody out there that knows how to deal with them and protect yourself from them.
Mhm. Definitely. Thomas Royball, hello there. What's up, Thomas? Uh, P Tang, right on. I made it to the live. Yay. Hey, what's up, P Tang? Pootie Tang. No, just kidding. Um, I seen you covered one of your videos a few days ago of like witchcraft going on the reservation, and you found out that it was these some kids practicing Norse like Norse mythology type of deal.
Yeah.
And what would you say like if you have a problem where somebody's doing voodoo, that type of deal? What would you do?
Um I would do my research. Like I said, always start out with research. And if you could try to find somebody that's good at voodoo, like whenever somebody comes at me with a question about like something that's out of my scope of work, out of my region, out of my stuff, like pretty much you'll find a YouTube video about somebody talking about it, and don't just take one source. Go to different YouTube channels and ask them, get different opinions on it. And because when it comes to a lot of these spiritual practices, there's different ways to go about it. There's different ceremonies with each race and religion. So, first of all, armor yourself up with whatever faith and religion that you have first, and then try going out a little bit more in the spectrum of when it comes to voodoo and hoodoo and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of knowledgeable people out there when it comes to these faiths and religions and pathways in the spiritual world. So, and there's a lot of people. You'll be surprised with how many people are actually out there to help give advice for simple protections out there. And yeah, just try to, if they have a piece of you, like, and they try witching you and stuff like that. In the Navajo tribe, there's similarities of that too. Grabbing your hair, grabbing, your fingernails, anything that's of you, they try to use that to witch you and get you sick. So whenever, what I was taught in my trainings is whenever I would lose my hair, whenever, like, sometimes my hair would fall out randomly or brush out my hair and stuff like that. If I go anywhere and any piece of me is lost, I cut ties with it spiritually. you know I'm just like, okay, well, wherever it's at, it's gone, it's lost. Thank you for, if
Mhm.
it's an object I really loved, I will say thank you for your protections and memories I made with you, but this is where our connection ends. And so even if they have that, it won't be spiritually tied to you. It's almost like a spiritual tether that's to you and that object, and that's what they use. So if you cut that tether, if you cut that connection with it, all they have is just the memories of it, and they can't really get you sick like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I think we, let's go back to your story now. From where you left off,
Yes.
we went on down the rabbit hole, which is
Yeah.
okay. We don't mind going down the rabbit hole, opening this can of worms and opening that can of worms.
Yeah.
But this is your episode now, so
Okay.
we'll backtrack to where you left off.
Okay. So back in the haunted house. So while we were living in that house, that's when my brother, we were going to ceremonies, and my brother got his gift. He had a vision for the first time. And he went to different hatalis and medicinal people to kind of confirm that. And then he would kind of tell us he would see a certain spirit. And they offered him, they told him, they're like, you have this opportunity for a gift. You are going to be, pretty much, you can do a lot of good with it, but hardship will come with it. But also a lot of beauty is going to come with it too. And so he was very young. He was only 13 years old when he got his gift. And then so I was 9 years old at the time. And so when he got his gift and he started, developing his gift and learning those protections, and then he started going to different trainings to other different tribes to learn different stuff. And as well as our traditional ways too. I started going with him. Gosh, how old was I? I was around 13, 14 years old too when I started, like, going on his adventures, going to his ceremonies and stuff. And I was just kind of an observer at that time, but it was, I grew up in a haunted house and everything, like, I always had a very strong imagination. And so you put me in a dark room as a kid, I would imagine there's a monster right there, or the most horrid demon thing is in that room, and there's fucking nothing in there. So, my imagination used to run wild. And so
Yeah.
during my trainings, it was my brother, and he ended up taking my uncle too. My uncle was kind of his first helper with his ceremonies, and they would kind of go against evil and darkness out there in the res. And we were out. My sister had a ceremony out there on the reservation at my great grandmother's house, and my great grandmother is from Black Mesa area. I'll say that for the people, and it's kind of very rocky, kind of cliff area ish in that place. And so it was kind of renowned for having a lot of Yanagloshis or skinwalkers kind of come around. And especially if you're running a ceremony, those Yanagloshis used to kind of come around and try to mess up the ceremony. They would hear the medicine man singing those songs, but they would sing them backwards. And so, in hopes that the patient gets sick or gets affected in some sort of shape or form when it comes to that. And so, we were pretty much the ones that were security, making sure that they don't mess with anything during the ceremony. And I was very, very young. I got my first knife, and then I was all young and excited. I was just like, all right, let's do this. Let me go with you guys. And sure enough, when they started showing up in the cliffs nearby, you can kind of hear their whistles. You can kind of see their crystals twinkle in the night. And so they were coming closer. And my brother, I was just like, "Let's go, let me go, let me go." And my uncle and my brother said, "No, you're too young, like you don't know what you're doing yet." And I was just like, "But I really want to go." I was just like so excited, like I grew up watching Lord of the Rings. I grew up watching, like all these other movies,
Chief
like,
Warrior.
yeah. So I was just like,
Antonio Banderas.
yeah.
Sorry, sorry.
I was excited, like I was all thinking like I wanted to really help out, but then that's when they told me no, you're not ready. And so I was sitting in the truck, I was crying, because like I really wanted to help. I really wanted to assist and help my brother and my uncle because their cause, what they were doing was really good. Like I wanted to protect my sister too. And they're like, "No, you stay here and you look after the family while we go do this." And he came back, and then my mom, I guess, talked to him. Is like, "Talk to your little brother and explain to him more uh, of why he couldn't go." So my brother came and got me, and there's kind of a little hill that on the backside of the house that led down into a valley, and it goes up to another hill right there. And so he says, "Look out toward that hillside over there." And then there's some red lights. And he's like, "You see those red lights over there?" He's like, "Those are the Anagloshi skinwalkers. Would you, if I told you to go out there by yourself and face them, would you?" In all reality, like when you're standing right there, it's dark, barely any moonlight, and there's like that evil that's out there. I told him honestly, I was like, "No, I'm kind of scared." He's like, "Exactly." He's like, "You have strength, but that comes from having me around. That comes from having your uncle around. But you, as a warrior, you have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and face this darkness and evil by yourself. When you can do that, that's when you're ready to join us." And so realization and maturity kind of really hit me. And so I trained. I got stronger. I'm 6'5", so I was always kind of pretty tall growing up, but I was really lanky. I never really had any muscle or anything like that. And so I trained. I was just like, okay, well, if we're gonna go ahead and do this, I need to be physically ready for this. So I worked out, like he started giving me trainings of the weapons and stuff like that, how to use firearms, how to use swords, how to use knives, all these different things, axes. And sure enough, a couple years went by and I was finally ready. There was a couple times in those trainings to where I didn't fully go with him on a kind of like a blessing or going against evil ceremony. But there was one time where it was kind of an accident. I just happened to be there. We were visiting my great grandmother's old homestead up in the mountains in Black Mesa. And when we were leaving, there was an old sheep corral that's there. And in that sheep corral, for those of you who don't know, sheep corrals up there, they used to be built with tree branches as the posts. And they used to kind of have metal barbed wire that went across it. So it was really, really old. And so we would drive up there pretty frequently. And we noticed something different this time is one of the sheep corral posts had a metal can on top of it. Just like, we're the only ones that kind of come up here. So I didn't put that there. We asked each other, "Did you guys put that there?" We're like, "No, no, we didn't put that there." So we pull off and I grab my big knife and everything. "Hey, what's up?"
Hey, what's going on? Well, it's nice to finally meet you. Uh,
Nice to meet you.
yeah, forgive me, man. I'm only human, sadly, and bones break. Luckily, this one didn't. So, yeah, just gave me time to catch up on your work, though. Man, you
Oh, thank
had some
you.
really interesting stuff. Yeah, really interesting. And actually, my younger brother, he was the one that told me about you. He's like, you should have this guy in your podcast. And later on, I talked about it with Don. He's like, you're already, already have him. Like, oh no shit. I had to tell my brother, So he's pretty. He's the one that listens to you. He brought me up to you, and it's really interesting stuff, man. Really interesting.
Thank you, man.
But
Yeah, it's good
thank
to
you.
meet
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
And yeah, and life happens, man. So completely fine.
Oh
I
yeah,
understand all that. So you're good, bro.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
alive. You're alive. You made it safe. That's all that counts.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh
You're all
yeah.
there.
Act- Actually, when we're doing the having the pre-interview or the audio check, that's actually driving through Albuquerque. So, uh, if you know what Albuquerque's like, then you gotta
You got to pay attention.
definitely, yeah, you gotta say your prayers and lock the doors and just get through as fast as you can. So, but I'm here, and thank you for coming on the show. Uh, and life happens, but the black swan gets to finish his dance, I guess, at the end. So right here.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, he's so far he's been leading us to his story, his origin story before he became a superhero that he is right now.
Man.
God, just kidding. But yeah, he's filling us in on the story, and he's leading us up to where he gets his superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
So
Nice.
yeah, let's push play. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So kind of recap of hang on, my eyes are really itchy right now. Hang on. Give me 1 second. Ah. Okay. So to recap where I was at is so we noticed that metal can that was right there on the sheep corral fence post that was right there. So we pull off in the truck. It was my brother and my uncle. And so like at the time I just had a little machete and then a knife with me too. So we always kind of carried that around wherever we went just to be safe. Because you never know out there. It's so remote, so couldn't use it for something. And so they were like, all right, let's check it out. And I was like, I look at them, I was just like, am I coming too? And then they're like, hop out the truck, let's go. And I was like, yeah, like I was like, all my training, let's do this, like I'm finally ready, let's do this. And it was broad daylight too. So it was like around maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so we start making our way over there, and we were just checking up on my grandma's place, making sure no one broke in or stole anything like that. So we start making our way over there, and we get to the sheep corral, and then we take off the can, we kind of just throw it, and we were just like, that's what my brother and my uncle told me. They're like, all right, let's check the area, let's see if there's anything around, because normally like that, when you see something like that, it's a marker for any of these things that kind of run around at night. And so we were walking, and I stumble upon a giant hole in the ground. And this hole in the ground, I would say, is about 3 to 5 feet in diameter. And it goes down about like 6 or 7 feet into the ground. And I was just like, what the fuck? What is this? And I call my brother and my uncle. And then they kind of look in there. And then they're like, all right, keep looking around. And sure enough, about like 20 yards east of there was another hole that was right there. And we keep going in that direction, and then there's more holes that kind of lead up into a hillside that's right there. And so I was like, okay, so what is this right here? So once we looked around the area, we made sure there's nothing around, broad daylight, so you're probably not going to really see too much as far as for evil being around. And so we go back to one of the bigger holes that's there, and I ask him, I was like, what's this? And then so they tell me that these holes that are right here, he had a flashlight, and it was like pitch dark when you look down into the hole. And the hole led into a tunnel to the next hole that went into the along the path of the valley right there. And I was like, what's this? And they're like, these right here are Yanagloshi tunnels. These are Yeni tunnels that they use to kind of traverse the land. There's a bunch of them everywhere, but it looks like this one's abandoned. And they were like, but they didn't tell me it was abandoned. They knew, but they kind of wanted to freak me out. They were like, "Go in there." I was like, "What?" You know, first time, going on a thing. I was just like, they're like, "Go in there and see what you see." I was like, "All right," like I wanted to be here. I wanted to be a part of this. Screw fear. Let's do this. And so they always say that, like, if you go into these tunnels, like, swords or anything like that aren't going to be of use really, because you can't really swing it inside of a tunnel. So they said just take your knife with you. But what you do is you leave your sword in the ground at the hole that you went in. So if you die or get captured, at least your allies that come reinforcements will know where you went into. They'll find your weapon right there at the specific hole you went into. So I jump in the hole and I look up, and there's about a couple feet. It's like I said, 6'5". So there's a couple feet clearance above my head of where the entryway of that tunnel is. And I get my flashlight and I look inside of the tunnel, and it was about maybe 2 or 3 feet wide opening hole that kind of went in. I would say about another 6 or 10 feet inside of there. And I was looking at how I had the flashlight. They're like, "What are you seeing there?" I was like, I don't really see nothing in there." Until I start crawling in. They're like, "Go ahead and crawl in there." I was like, "Oh shit," So I start crawling in there, and sure enough, there was I didn't tell this in my story on YouTube, but there was a piece of a spinal column that was tied together, and then there was crow feathers on there, and there was blood onside the or not the collarbone, the spinal cord column, tied in with some crow feathers, and it had some blood on it too. And so I told them about that, and they're like, "Don't touch it, just leave it." And so that's when I come up, and they start telling me the story of this place, because then my brother started communicating with the spirits. He said,
Mhm.
he said there was a battle that happened here not too long ago. It was kind of in the area. There was, I guess you can say, a purge of skinwalkers and evil in the area. And so the spiritual warriors teamed up with thunder beings, thunder beings of the storms. And he was just like, they chased them out of these tunnels right here. And so these cave-ins were of them trying to escape. And when those thunder beings would throw their lightning bolts, it would pierce the ground and break open the tunnel that's right there. And so if you look, the tunnel, all the tunnel cave-ins all led up on top of a hill. And on top of that hill, there was a bunch of burnt trees that were hit with lightning. And he was just like, over there, that's where they tried making their escape. But when they're in the open, the thunder beings threw their lightning bolts at them, and they got rid of them like that. And we went up on top of the hill, and sure enough, we saw some of their regalia. We saw some of their weapons that they dropped along the way. And so I was like, dang, so um that was my first, kind of experience seeing the aftermath of, like, kind of like a battle that happened. And it was very interesting to kind of like see that in person, because I, like, in my trainings, I heard stories. I heard stories of these things, but to actually be in the place where this happened was very um eye-opening experience. To, like, it
Mhm.
brings like a whole nother level of, holy shit, this is real, and
Mhm.
so after that, my brother, my uncle, they're say, "Okay, I think we think you're ready." Your mindset of, when it comes to spiritual combat, when it comes to dealing with darkness and evil, you had fear to go in that hole, and you didn't chicken out like how you would have when you were a little kid. You actually went in there. So you've grown up, they've said. So now you can start coming with us to these things. I was like, yes. And so then, yeah, so then started many years just kind of going with my brother, going with my uncle, to these different places whenever people would be dealing with dark beings in their home, dark beings kind of messing with them. We would kind of go in and chase them out, certain stuff like that. certain family members, outside family members, and we started going outside of the reservations, but to still in kind of localish area in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado kind of stuff, and doing ceremonies like that. And it was very interesting kind of throughout the years how it develops. You see how certain things, certain songs, certain medicines and herbs don't really work with beings from outside of the tribe. And so it works a little bit, but then like if they're it depends on how old the spirit is. If they know how to defend themselves against certain medicines or songs, then you got to adapt your song. You got to change your song to be able to go against them. And it was very interesting to kind of see, that develop over the years. And just being his helper, just helping him out, seeing these things. It was an honor to be able to witness
Mm.
and go through all these things throughout these years. And so um, we kind of came to a point that my brother wanted to focus on family. He wanted to focus on his loved ones and more so of his like physical life. So him and I went on our separate ways. And so that's where he's at right now. He's kind of doing his own thing. He's pursuing trying to make movies and stuff like that. And I went down this road of YouTube, and I'll be making movies in the future too, and just sharing my experiences because a lot of these things come with social media. Is I see a lot of people out there that are kind of lost when it comes to interacting with spirits, interacting with these beings and stuff. And that's one of the things is like, if only they just knew. If only they just knew the basics. Like sometimes all you need to do is just a tobacco offering, and like a lot of times your hauntings will be done, but then you'll know if it's still around messing with you. Then you kind of got to go a little bit deeper into the cleansing of the house and cleansing of so many different things. And so it just develops from there. And that's when you can kind of walk through these certain situations. I explain in my videos there's a lot of the mindset that comes with dealing with darkness and evil. That itself, knowing yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, is the first step. It's pretty. I feel blessed that I come from a tribe that knows the ancestry generations. They know the stories of where we come from, the certain mountains, the certain landscape. And just hearing those stories and just knowing where I come from in and itself is strength. And there's people out there that don't have that. They don't know where they come from. They don't know their family. They don't know these certain things. And so they, in turn, can be affected by evil because it's easy to persuade them to do these other different things that they don't know is not of them. So if like a demon or something like that tries to persuade me to do something dark or crazy or like it like kind of leads into possession a little bit, it's like, the hell are you? I'm not like that. Like, I don't think like that. Who are you? Who are you trying to tell me to, oh, your family doesn't love you? What? Of course they love me.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I know they love me. What are you talking about, dude? What are you
Mhm.
talking about? Fool? It's just like, oh, you don't know yourself. Like, yeah, I do. Like I love video games. I do YouTube. I like Metallica. Like what are you talking about, man? And so I just give like tips and tricks to help people get through these things, and it's pretty amazing to kind of see. I get messages, I get emails from people that say, like, I made Ash from the Ash video that you made. Your mindset and your videos and everything that you said have helped me through a hard time dealing with these beings at my house. And that right there is kind of the gratification that I need. Like, okay, I'm doing something good here, like I'm actually helping people, and when they're not even from the tribe, you know what I mean? And I recently had a young warrior message me. He's just like, "Can you do a video on how to pray?" I was never taught how to pray, so that's going to be a video coming up here very soon. Like, everyone's life situation's different. They didn't know, then a lot of people didn't have grandpas or uncles or older brothers to teach them these things, so it's just like,
Mhm.
let me just teach you what I know. And so hopefully that inspires other people from different races, religions, other tribes to kind of start speaking on that, sharing their stories, sharing their teachings of life, how to be one with the earth and spirituality and everything like that. And
Mhm.
going like that, spreading that love, spreading that happiness, because somebody's teaching out there could help you in a rough situation that you're in now, but they don't realize it. So that's pretty much the whole goal of why I started this channel and why I'm still going too.
Definitely. Two questions for
Nice.
you. Um, who are the Thunder Beings, and what are the medicine bundles for the native listeners out there?
So it's monsoon season. So it kind of depends on the tribe exactly of what a thunder being is, but kind of when you start speaking with different tribes, it all becomes pretty similar. It's a spirit of the storm. It's a spirit of the thunder. They're the ones that look after the storms. They're the ones that kind of take the storms to where they need to be. And whether it's a blessing of the land with their rain, or sometimes there could be darkness and evil in the location or area, and they have to chase them out. They have to get rid of them. And so that's why in our teachings and in our stories, you always respect thunder. You always respect the thunder beings. And so and they have so much power with them. They can create hurricanes, they can create tornadoes, twisters. They have a lot of power with them. And so you always have to respect it whenever a storm comes. And y'all know, growing up in this area, it's very dry. So we love when it rains. We love the smell of the wet dirt. And so when that comes around, you just feel blessed, and you say thank you to the thunder beings for bringing upon these storms. There's male thunder beings, the female thunder beings, female rain, male rain. There's even goes into the traditional stories of animals that were hit with lightning. There we have certain songs, ceremonies with the lightning, respecting, not using or touching light wood or any object that's hit by lightning, using it for ceremonies and stuff. But there are, come to find out, there are some lightning ceremonies that you can use that wood for, but very few people kind of know of that. So that's why general rule, kind of just don't touch it. So there's a lot of power with these beings, and they've been here since the beginning of this earth. They know the stories, they've seen everything. And so if you pray to them, give them offering, like good things will happen. And so yeah, that's pretty much what a thunder being is. And so don't fuck with them, you know. um so yeah, and then when it comes to medicine bundles, when it comes to those holy objects, I won't go into full detail like exactly how they're made. um but typically, each family has their own kind of medicine bundle, and their bundles that they have are used for protection, used for blessings of the whole family in itself. There's a whole ceremony that goes into it about how it's made and the items that are put inside of it too. And so there's a lot of songs and ceremonies that go with it. And so then they have other ceremonies of opening the bundle, closing the bundle, and all these certain things, certain times of the year that you can kind of do those ceremonies. And then when it comes down to generations, when that generation passes, they have to pass on that medicine bundle. So some of these families have really, really old ancient medicine bundles that go back centuries. And so, but then if you create your own family branch kind of thing, then that family branch can make their own medicine bundle. A whole ceremony goes into it, but it's very, very sacred. And my great grandma used to always say, like, there's medicine bundles in this house. Nobody cusses. Everyone be reverent, And so she would kind of tell those stories of like how to the mannerisms of when it comes to ceremonies, mannerisms when it comes to a livelihood, and just having that respect for the world, having that respect for seasons and the heat, the sun, everything like that. And if you come in with that mindset of that respect of everything, you learn how to walk with it every day. That's why we say in our tribe, walk in beauty. You learn how to master walking in beauty. That opens up a lot of doors whenever you try to communicate with spirits, because spirits can look at you and see everything about you, where you come from, your thought process, who you are as a person, and your intentions of why you're there. So you walk in beauty, they see, oh, this person comes from a long line of, Hatalis, medicinal people, holy people. You don't even have to be like Native American. It's like, this person's a genuine good person. I will have a conversation with this person. But then like you have like these other paranormal investigators out there that just want to do it for money. that just want to exploit these spirits and not even help them out. Spirits will know. They'll be like, Screw these guys," And so, like, when we started doing paranormal investigations, it was interesting to hear different paranormal teams experience. And when they investigate with us, they're like, when you guys get on location, you guys, things are already starting to happen before you guys are even set up. Like, how are these beings already coming up to you and speaking with you? You guys don't even have your cameras rolling, or things are already starting to happen. And then we're just like, we come into it as a ceremony. And so a lot of people, they like, we would post on TikTok, and then we hear a lot of people from our tribe. They're like, yeah, Bahad said you guys aren't supposed to be doing this, like, you guys aren't supposed to be doing didn't your grandparents ever teach you nothing, and it's just like, first off, you don't even know who the fuck we are, so it's just like that whole backstory I just told you. They don't know nothing about it, like, they don't know that we come from all that stuff, these trainings, ordained to do all these things. And but it's just because of their perspective, they've never heard of it. But it's like, dude, there's been ghost busting ceremonies for centuries, and it's just like, I'm sorry you don't know about it, but whenever we go investigate to these places, we go into it as a ceremony. Like, we were doing all these ghost busting ceremonies and stuff like that, and so we go into every location to help spirits. And so even we go to places outside of the reservation. And so hearing these spirits, because that's one thing that always bothered me whenever I would watch these paranormal investigation TV shows, is they would capture that spirit saying, "Help me, I'm stuck." And they would be like, "That's amazing. Oh my God." They would freak out. "Oh my God." They flip over tables and just run around the room and everything like that. And then they would move on. They never did anything about it, and that always hurt my heart whenever I saw that. I'm just like, dude, like, you just had a spirit ask you to help them and you did nothing, you know? And so that's where the main push for us to start doing paranormal investigations is like, let's show them how we do it with respect, and we actually help. And yeah, there are some dark things in some of these places that were keeping these souls captive. You can go into a place and, like, no offense to anybody, but you can be like, you can go to the creator now. You are free. And then they'd be like, all right, they're free. But then the spirits is still right there. And they're like, I wish I could go, but I got chains on my wrists from this demon that's holding me back right here, you know? And then they're just kind of not there in their gift to be able to see that detail of it. And so we would do a whole ceremony to be able to release these spirits and chase off these evil dark things that were in these places. And what sucked and bugged me the most is some of these locations you go to, they tell you no cleansings. They say no burning sage. They say you can't help the spirits. And because that makes them money.
I was just gonna say that too.
Well,
Like,
they
it's more
want it.
like a
They want it there
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
use financial gain off these suffering of people. That's the same thing with Don and myself. When we started talking, like, what, like, how do we go about this? Like, man, we can't look at this as a financial gain. Like, how do you like making money off of someone else's torment? Like, that's such a that's such a bad freaking way to look at this paranormal stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, like that's totally just bad. That's just totally bad. Just totally disrespectful for the listener and for yourself. So
Yeah.
right now it's a total bummer. But
Mhm.
hey, it is what it is what it is, and it has to be done a certain way.
Yeah. So what we would do is we would a lot of places they would say they don't understand it. So they would be like, no, they would say no mass cleansings. We would be like, okay, no mass cleansings. Let's do it. So we would so in our trainings and everything, we learned how to kill demon spirits. We learned how to kill them off. And so we're just like, especially in one place, it was called the Washoe Club in Virginia City, Nevada. And in this place, they told us we can't kill or get rid of the demon that's in this location. And so we're like, fuck, me all gun ho. Like my brother always called me trigger happy and everything when it came to getting rid of these things. And so at this location, one of our dearest friends, Pataya, he is a Billigana guy, but he grew up with us. And so he saw a lot of these things, especially when he moved in with my brother. And like long story short, there was a shadow demon that was in the house that just shoved my brother, and then he saw it, the shadow demon in his house, and he saw my brother go to bats with this dude, and he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" He was all freaking out. We're just like, "All right, sit down, young one. We're gonna tell you a tale." So then he started coming with us to these things, and so he was one of those guys that he grew up traditionally Christian, and then but then like he started following our ways and stuff, and so he at that investigation got possessed, unfortunately, and so we had to perform a exorcism on him on location, and so actually before that he got hurt, and there was a certain doll inside of a room inside of the Washoe Club. And by far to this date, this is the best spirit box communication we've ever had. Was this doll was telling us, cut his throat to him, Pataya, cut his throat, kill him, all these different things. And then he started getting a pain in his stomach, and he's like, "Can I go? Can I leave?" And she was just like, it through the spirit box. And then my brother said, "You have to ask her to leave." And then he's like, "I would like to leave, please." And through the SB7 spirit box, she said, "I said stay," like screams at him. And we're just like, fuck that, like he's hurting. And so we left, we escorted him out, and he was really hurting bad. So we got him some medicines, we got him some herbs, and he started feeling better. And so we're sitting there. I was pissed. I was just like, this fucking thing inside this place hurt my best friend. And like our brother in arms right here, screw that, I'm gonna go in there and kill it. My brother's like, "No, you're not supposed to." And I was just like, I took a hit my cigarette, and I was just like, "Well, we can't kill it, but we can wound it, break its legs or something, for fucking with us and everything." And so yeah, so it really speaks volume of Pataya's character, because normally if somebody deals with something like that, they're just like, "Fuck that, I'm not going back in there." He was like, "Fuck that, I'm going back in there and I'm facing this thing." So we end up going back in there. He gets possessed again, or not again, but he gets possessed and he passes out. And so he goes into like a spiritual battle with that thing. We have to do an exorcism. And when my brother is performing the exorcism on him, there's like a door slamming next door, or right next to us, to that room. We told one of our other brothers that was there, like, open the door. And then like, because we need to let the energy out, let this thing out if it needs to come out. And then so he opens the door. Not too long later, it's all just gets slammed on us. And so it was crazy. So like, but that's where we learned how to help the spirits, is because when we would go to other locations too, there would be almost kind of like a spiritual slave trade of human souls, and they would be transferred to different locations. And this location we happened to come upon was one of those locations. It was an old jail in Globe, Arizona. And so in these cells were innocent people calling out for help. And there was a really powerful demon that was inside of there that was saying, "Fuck that, you guys aren't messing with our stuff." And we're just like, "All right, rules say we can't get rid of you, but we'll banish you and kick you out for now." And so we kicked out the demon that was inside of there, and we got all those innocent spirits out, and we ran a ceremony and sent them on their way to the next world. And so then we let back the demon, and he was pissed at us. He's just like, "You guys lost me so much profit and all this other stuff." And we're just like, "Fuck you." It's just like, this is what we're here for. And it was almost like a loophole in like the owner's contract.
Shanclen, might have to. I like the the cuss words, but we try to keep it censored here a bit. Yeah. So I like the expression. I like it has a lot of attitude with it. So
Yeah.
you get the feeling, you get the emotion, but
Yeah.
got kids here, so.
My bad, my bad.
But yeah, you know, I've actually been to that jail cell. I actually worked right there in uh, the mines, and also
Mhm.
in San Carlos. And you know, there's a
Yeah.
bunch of weird stuff like these shadow beings that you talk about. Uh,
Mm.
I talk about this in a couple of the other episodes. These shadow beings. We my brother, he had an apartment that right across from the railroad track next to that drift in. You've probably
Yeah.
been there. That little bar. Yeah, right across from there. And uh, we see these shadow beings. You know, they always just poke their head out. You know, like what the heck's that? First, we
Yeah.
all thought we were going crazy. You know, like, and then eventually one of us spoke up, and like everybody just kind of hit each other like, you too, like, you know. And this is one of the things that I always liked about starting this podcast is, you know, it only takes one person to speak up, you know, to get the audience going. And the
Mm.
same thing with this podcast is, you know, me speaking up even in my area. um,
Mm.
we started speaking about the stuff with this paranormal stuff, and then all of a sudden someone's like, "Hey, you know, I that had that stuff happen to me too. You know, it's good to hear that. You know, I'm not crazy. You know,
Yeah.
or yeah, I see the same stuff. I'm going through the same thing, and you know, it's the whole thing of this podcast is to help. You know, to help
Mhm.
help the people that don't know what to go through or they think they're crazy.
Yeah.
Um, especially for you saying a help, you know, a helping spirit, you know, spirit
Mhm.
asks for help, and then they just like, oh my god, like, what? Oh my god, we caught that on audio, like really, you know, like yeah, someone they're
I'll
asking for
just be
you,
like,
you're asking for help, you know,
scratch me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's totally weird with the whole like the mainstream ghost busting hunting stuff like that, you know. I
Mm.
always find it really odd that they you know act all crazy sometimes, or you
Yeah.
know, like it's really weird, but you know, I guess you got to keep the audience entertained sometimes.
Yeah.
So but
Mhm.
as for you, yeah,
Yeah.
your stuff, I watched the Apache Death Cave right when
Oh yeah.
the podcast started going. I was watching that, and I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, like, these guys are pretty, like, these guys are legit. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of EVP, and, you know, it had a good history with it. You know, even these spirits were, you know, they were talking Navajo, you know, some were even
Mhm.
talking Apache. Like, you know what, you know, I have my own ideas on how to go about this, you know, especially with this
Yeah.
language barrier, you know, the whole
Mm.
spiritual world, spiritual side. Is there a language barrier in between them? You know, I always wondered this. And
Mm.
when stuff like when we get our feet on the ground, I have my own ways of, you know, I want to try, you know, like, let's see uh, how this spiritual world really works and how they interact with you know, with solid objects. Because currently, you know, even my own house, you know, there's stuff going on in the
Mm.
inside, the outside, and I have videos of these, you know, stuff moving, lights in the trees, orbs, UFOs, you know, Bigfoot, uh, you know, all these weird witchy stuff that happen around this area where I'm at, and you know,
Yeah.
it always makes you wonder, um, like why, you know, and it only takes someone to open their voice to talk about it, and you know,
Mm.
try to understand a bit more of this whole spiritual realm that we kind of coexist with. But
Mm.
you know, for everybody listening, you know, look up his YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Same with Don't Whistle at Night. This is how you can support uh, and share, you know, share the love with us both. And uh, you know, it's really good. It's really good. You
Mhm.
know, like he has
Oh
some
yeah.
really useful information. You know, really useful information on his YouTube. You know, and you know, I
Yeah.
did see you on
Um.
that ghost hunter stuff too. Like a long time ago, I heard about it,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, his name sounds familiar. Like, then my
Yeah.
brother brought it up again, and then I seen the YouTube thing about you and the whole paranormal ghost. I think it was like Ghost Hunter. I think it was the Baggins. I think
Oh, Ghost
Bagginses.
Adventures? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. Kudos though. Kudos.
Yeah, it was cool because like I was on there twice and then the first time was in Wickenburg, Arizona. It was
Mm,
Vulture City. It was an
yeah.
old ghost mining town that was over there, and I was actually after that became a tour guide over there, because it was a lot more of the think beyond written history, because a lot of people when they do the research on these places, um, it only goes so far back, but when it comes to like native history of the location and stuff, you're never gonna find that in history books and or anything like that. So that's where you
Right.
go talk to the tribes and stuff like that. And so that place was very haunted from a lot of different events that happened there before that town was even founded. And so became a tour guide, and so we ended up doing an investigation, and then Ghost Adventures saw it. They were actually coming in a couple weeks, and then the owner of the location, that was like one of our, I believe, one of our first major investigations we did, and the owner of that place was just kind of amazed by what we do and how we're going about it and stuff. And so he was like, yeah, Ghost Adventures is going to be coming, so I'll send crank out a video, the episode, and I'll send it over to them, and so if they like it, they'll have you guys on. And so that's where it began, as far as for trying to teach the history before that town was actually there, kind of go beyond written history, go beyond like
Mm,
a home may be haunted, but what made it haunted? Like, did somebody pass away
What
there?
happened on the land?
Like, or was there like an old battle that happened here before this town was even founded? Were there ceremonies that were done here? Like so many different things could actually happen and go beyond even before human beings were actually here too. And so that we did that episode, and then they reached out again, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to? We're going to Utah, and so you want to come out?" And I guess his family's dealing with a lot of skinwalker stuff, and I was like, "Sure, yeah." So I went out there, and the first time we met them, we didn't really get a lot of one-on-one talk or anything like that. But when I went there the second time, we were waiting for dinner after we were done shooting. So I was there for about good 2-3 hours. And so like I know there's drama and stuff when it comes to like TV show people and stuff like that. But these guys, in my experience that I had with them, they treated me with a lot of respect. And like they weren't kind of up like compared to other celebrities I've met, these guys were cool. Like they were just like willing to talk and share ideas and stuff like just kind of like how we're talking now. Like we
mm,
were having conversations like that. I was having conversations with Zach, Aaron, Billy, Jay. And so when I was talking with Jay, though, he's kind of the one that does a lot of the symbols. He does like kind of his own protection ceremonies during some episodes too, as well. And I introduced to him, well, you should give tobacco offering whenever you're done with these locations, and thank the spirits. But in a sense, when you give these tobacco offerings, people always ask us like, "You guys ever have stuff that follow you home?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "How do you do it?" And so we're just like, "Well, just like with a ceremony, you always have to close it." And so how we close it is we give tobacco offering in front of the location. We talk with the spirits. We're just like, we tell them, thank you for your interaction, thank you for your stories. Even if there's a dark demon standing in front of us, we're giving them a tobacco offering, because when you do that, you're in a sense making a contract with those beings. You're just like, so how you word it is you tell them, thank you for your interactions and your stories that you have shared with us and our team. But this is where we draw the line in the sand. This is your home. This is where you choose to be. We offer you this tobacco in exchange that you do not follow us home, that you do not attach yourselves to us mentally, physically, spiritually, to any of our members here, to our equipment, to our vehicles. And then it kind of just builds from there. And you say, we offer you this tobacco in exchange for these terms. And so you give them that tobacco. And so it's good that way. Nothing ever followed us home. And until one time I messed up the prayer. I said, I instead of saying in exchange, I said, I offer I offer you this tobacco so you don't follow me home. And so because I said so, it wasn't specific enough. And so the being I was talking to found the loophole. He's just like, okay, he wasn't specific with it, so I'm gonna follow this dude home. And so he ended up messing me up pretty bad on the drive back. And then my brother met me, had to do like a little exorcism ceremony on me too. And then he was just like,
Oh,
how'd you word your prayer? I told him exactly how it's just like, you messed it up. And so I learned a hard lesson that day for sure. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's always very because some of these beings and things that you experience and see, they're thousands of years old. You know, they've been here for a long time. And kind of going back to the language thing, people always ask me, they're like, how are these people, or how do these spirits know the English language? I'm like, well, it's a tourist spot, so there's a lot of people that stop by that are speaking English, and pretty sure if you're in a building for several hundred years, you kind of learn to pick up on a couple languages, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my hat's off to you, Shanclen, you and the team. Godspeed, Godspeed, and let me catch up with the viewers here. We got a lot of comments building up right now.
Cool.
1 second, Darren. Hang on, let's catch up here. Uh, Thomas Royball. I'm the one that had experience. I'm the one that had a 5-day experience with a skinwalker in Alamosa, Colorado.
Ooh.
I was on What Lurks Beneath. Oh man, really?
Hey.
We would like to hear that. We would like to hear that. Let's see here. Okay, Thomas Royball. Blanket Mountain, Colorado, and Fort Garland is the east mountain of the Four Corners Sacred Mountain. Yes, sir. It sure is. It
Mm.
sure is. Mr. Curly, Shanclen, what's the story behind the sword?
Uh,
Yes.
I heard about this on one of the episodes. Like a sword, like
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah. You can point a gun. You can point
Yeah.
a gun and have a gun point at you or a knife point at you, but a sword, like that's one of the things that I always kind of like like yeah, that
Yeah.
what greater fear to have someone instead of a knife. Like yeah, he pulled out a sword. Like
Yeah.
like no shit, like damn.
Yeah. So it's actually very interesting when it comes into that. So when my brother was on his trainings, it goes more outside of the Navajo Nation. It's kind of more of an intertribal thing. And so when his mentors were teaching him, he stood in front of, what he told me is he stood in front of a table, and on this table there was a bunch of weapons on there. They're like, choose one you want to specialize in. And so he saw a katana, a sword right there. And he was like, there were spears, there was arrows, there was all these other traditional weapons, axes, tomahawks, and stuff. I was like, what's this right here? Why do you guys have this? And he's just like, interesting story behind that one. And so then they brought up somebody from one of the California tribes, one of those chiefs over there. He says, we have ancient cave drawings on some of our cliffs and our caves on the east or the west coast in California. And we were visited hundreds of years ago by what we call beetle warriors. They came from the sea, and these beetle warriors wore armor from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, and they had a crown that looked like a beetle. And they said that they had blades of the crescent moon. So they had those like it almost looked like a katana. That's what how they worded it, crescent moon blades. And they traded it with some of the tribes over there. And so that's how it came to be that, it may not 100% be a katana. It could be like from Japan, Korea, China, but crescent blades like that, were kind of a thing back in Asian cultures. And so this was before Columbus, and they were telling us how stories of how they found this land and they traded with us even before then, and then they went on their way after they were done. And unfortunately, they never came back, they said. And so, but they have cave drawings of their interactions with the beetle warriors and stuff that came from the sea. So that's like the story of, the katana, why we use that. And it was just like, it's sharp, it's durable, and I could use an axe and stuff like that, but that thing's heavy. You're gonna get tired after a little while you swinging that thing around. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, it's also a fear factor, like how you said too. It's like you see a dude coming at you with a katana on the res, and you're just like, whoa.
Right.
Mhm.
I like that. I like that
Definitely.
though. Kind of reminds you. Was that story of Cujo? The little
Mm,
anime with the guy who he was a beetle. Like he was a
yeah.
samurai. He was a beetle. So
Mm,
even I heard you mention Demon Slayer too. I think one of your episodes. So I got to watch that. Watch the new one.
yeah.
Now I gotta wait. wait so long for the next one again. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's really unique. That's a really unique history on it. And like you said, it's the unwritten history. Most of the Native Americans, it's unwritten. It's not written. Everything's just verbal communication. Passed
Hmm.
down for a long time. So
Yeah.
that's pretty. That is really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Let's continue with the comment section before we're winding down time. We definitely need a plan for part two.
Heck yeah.
Kurt W75. Oh yeah, for real. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share, hit the bell so you can get the notifications when these guys go live. And remember, hashtag don't whistle at night and Shadow Productions. Don't forget to subscribe to this young man
Mm,
right here. Some good information,
yep.
some hot information out there for you guys out there that's battling the dark ones out there. Pete
Ooh.
Tang, it is pretty creepy when the shadow walkers come around. The room gets heavy and the pressure gets to be too much, especially when you have a group of them walking around against you. It's crazy. Oh man, what do you say about that, Sean?
You need to start burning some sweetgrass and cedar and getting those things out of there and taking back your home.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Kim Sanchez, hey, what's up? And Owl 13, I heard poach sage won't work. Oh, patch sage won't work. Oh, interesting. And let's see here. Gustavo Cordoba, shalom from Venezuela. Hey,
Ooh.
Hey,
nice for you
shalom.
guys to join us. Yep, God bless. P Tang, I think he says this is great advice. I will remember that and safeguard myself. Yeah, definitely, P Tang.
Mm,
Let's see here. Oh yeah, he says, "Hi Don, hi Shanclen." Oh yeah,
Hello.
Jojo, love from Rhode Island. Found your channel a few days ago. I have had too many weird encounters myself that corroborate with your stories. What would be a good time to be alive? Well, what a great time to be alive. I never thought I would see the orbs.
Hmm.
Oh man, I got chased
so
by an orb one time. What do you say about the orbs, Sean Clem? What are they?
Well, when you record and you ghost hunt and you have night vision, could be dust or could be a spirit. But for me, it's kind of how the spirit chooses to show itself to you. And sometimes, it may take too much energy for them to manifest into a whole thing. So you just see their energy spirit. That's kind of what goes into a spirit ball orb kind of thing. So yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of
Mhm.
those too. And it's being chased one. I can't imagine what that felt like.
Oh man, it was late, and that's the last thing I've ever expected to see coming off the mesa and coming. I was like, wait, what's that coming around? Oh nope, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. It got too weird. Pete Tang, I have noticed the bell is spinning from midnight to 3 a.m. ish. Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely. Let's see here. Let me see. There's a lot of chatter going on in the chat box, which is okay. The internet always. Oh, okay. Never mind. I think that's someone else's chat. Hey, Avery Tafoya. Evening, brothers. Hey, what's
hey,
up,
what's going on?
Avery? It's Uncle Avery right there. Congrats on your marriage, brother. And let's see here. Let me take this here. Sorry, give me a few minutes here. Me. Okay. So Darren, do you have any questions you have for Sean Glenn?
Oh yes, but what's the idea of the handling purposes for these like cursed objects and stuff like that? What do you say if you have alleged? I heard you mention like a doll, like the conjuring dolls. Like one thing I was told is you don't touch them. Touch it with your bare hands. Everything
Mm,
you do that you suspect. You don't touch it with your hands, your
yeah.
skin.
So when it comes to kind of cursed objects and kind of like what I was mentioning about when I was in that tunnel, you saw that spinal cord with the feathers on it, and then kind of like the scattered stuff you had and other objects that we kind of ran into in time. There's different kind of stages depending on where you are in your spiritual trainings and stuff. The masters they don't they can how I can describe it is they kind of put like a glove of like a shield on their hand. So those the masters can like pick it up and grab it when they need to, and it won't affect them. But if you're kind of newer novice when it comes to dealing with darkness and evil, they always say put ash on your hands, cover your hands with ash before you grab anything like that. So that ash can protect you against the negative energy that's on there. And when it comes to keeping them, the mentors sometimes keep them to for trainings and stuff. Like sometimes, there's a dark thing that's like kept in them, and they're just like, okay, go in this room over here. What's in there? Don't worry about it. Figure a way out. Deal with it. It's like you got 30 minutes staying there with it. And so you go in there and there's like a doll or something right there, and you're just like, what is this? And so
Yeah.
then it messes with you and stuff. But then there's other times that it's just like we don't want to deal with it. So there's in a sense almost like a spirit capture ceremony to where you if you watch like the Conjuring movies and stuff, that's always something that's kind of missing is like people always say that like, oh, we can't just banish it, or it's better the demon is better safe in its object than being released into the world. And I'm just like, why not get rid of it, you know? And so I was just like, our people know how to get rid of these things like permanently to where they don't come back. And it's like, so that's pretty much the protocol is like you almost release the spirit from the object, but you also get rid of it. And yeah, you kind of capture it outside of the doll or whatever object you have too. So it just depends on what whoever gets it, and they're like, okay, we're gonna use it for training, or we're just like, no, we're not gonna deal with it. Let's just get rid of it, kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, I had a one
Um,
man. He talked about
mhm.
him having kachina dolls, and
Mm,
these kachina dolls were moving around. I don't know if you listened to a couple of podcasts before. That's one thing that he mentioned was he called the medicine man by he picked him up, and whatever he did with it, he took the video. So it kind of makes you wonder. Like he probably used it for to train.
yeah.
It's kind of amazing how uh you know like how much sci-fi like fantasy. Uh, Artwork or like the whole sci-fi thing, like the manga, that makes you really wonder like how far from that is. You capture a mini like like a weaker spirit, and then you're like, here, fight with it, just like
Yeah.
what you said, deal with it, figure it
Mhm.
out. And
Yeah.
from there you'll start to get have a better understanding, like how you said your brother, he took you into the to way to get in the cave. It's
Yeah.
that I guess it's that whole breaking the spirit of fear off of you.
Mm,
Once you get older, you understand fear. And one thing I always heard, we weren't born with the spirit of fear on us. Power, love, and a sound mind. So at an essence, that fear is not part of human. It's not
mm,
humanity. It wasn't made for us. So even with
Yeah.
Don, he talks about the whole Star Wars. Even he
Oh yeah.
yeah, Yoda, he took Luke Skywalker. He said go in there. That there's some real dark energies. You have to fight it for yourself, and fight fear, fight your own fears. Your own worst fears, your own
yeah.
doubts. So uh, it's really interesting that you brought that up. Because it's once you know fear, you have a better strong foothold on yourself. Better to protect yourself, and even at a better sense is protect others. So
Mm,
you know you got to put yourself in a fighting stance as you would for your families, for your friends, even for your animals.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, I would jump.
Um,
I would jump in front of
hey
a car
Darren,
to save my dog. Comes down to it.
Yeah.
real. Hey Darren, let me finish reading out the comments. We're running low still. Hang on there. In James, good evening. Finally made it to the podcast. Hello, in James. Crazy Coyote 1313. Japanese have a ceremony everyday objects. They say everyday objects come to life and back spiritually 20 years after the owners throw them away. What? That is
Hmm.
a new one. I have never heard that one. That's crazy. The featured Willie. When I used to leave Tuba City and go on the road over Black Mesa to Pinon, I used to have weird feelings of being watched. Oh yeah.
It was probably
And
me.
he said watching him from the outhouse. I'm just kidding. Good view up there at the outhouse sometimes, man. The Cedric Willie. My dad also worked and slept in the houses they were building in Forest Lake and heard them walking on the houses. Oh, that is creepy. Pete Tang, my family lives on the north side of San Juan. Hey, which drives the res from the south. I was told many times that protects those across the river. Water is a deity that protects to a degree. You were saying that too. Waterways, the spirits and all that are
Mm,
very sensitive, just like us that live along the San Juan River.
yeah.
It's very strange, very strange.
Hmm.
Um, Tyson Lolito, how's it going, bro? Dropped in late. I'll watch it over when it's over. Please do. It's some good information. Mr. Curly, Sean Clem, you ever seen Bigfoot when you're out at night?
One time, made a video about that. It was during a peyote ceremony over in Look at Your Guy Mountains. So went to go use the restroom with my older brother, and we saw giant eyes staring at us from the fire, like over to our side. It wasn't in front of us, but it was kind of like to the side of us, and saw giant eyes that were a lot bigger than a human, and it kind of smelled. And so we told them, the roadman inside of the peyote ceremony, and he told us we got a Bigfoot nearby. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Kurt W75 said, Darren, the fist is up. Then
Yep.
Avery
Thank you.
Tafoya, evening, Darren. Barely catching up on the comments.
Yeah.
um, oh yeah, let's see here. Kurt W75. I often think about Mammoth Mountain and then think about Hollow Earth theories. And I'm also starting to think about all the negative entities, Dogman, some Bigfoot skinwalkers. I think they live in caves or hollowed out areas like ant people. Also, they're not all good. Oh man. And Avery Tafoya, interesting story. Wow. Definitely Avery. For real. Um, Thomas Royball, Shanclen, your brother can do a movie about my story for free. It's an amazing story about Alamosa, Colorado, by the Great Sand Dunes National Park.
Ooh,
Ooh, you
let me
definitely
know.
gotta, you could definitely do that. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I'll be the one screaming. I was kidding.
And I'll
Let's
just
see here.
be remaking Dune, and calling the sandworms.
Yep.
Bro. um, Taylene Root, Cha, caught you live. What's up, Taylene? Let's see here. I should have read. I should have read all these comments. Now I have to be picky, choosy right now. Let's see here. See here. Finally, glad y'all got together. Oh yeah. So we got
Ooh.
Audacious Amber in the house. What's up? And she said, "Hey, uncles." Oh, what's up? And let's see here. Don, my brother from another mother. What's up, Amber? My sister from another mister. How's it going? Let's see here. Uh, hmm. Whoa, okay. Someone's wife put a hit on somebody. I was gonna
Oh
bring
shit.
that up, but like, I don't know.
Oh,
Whose
no.
wife put a hit on their husband? That's some interesting stuff right there. Oh, let's
Oh
see here.
no.
T. Hustine. I had two encounters. Paranormal asked for water, strange. For sure, for sure. Both events happened before dusk. Oh man. All right. I think I'm gonna read. That's all from the comments right now. We are running low on time. Darren, is there any final questions you want to ask Mr. Sean Clem before we bring him back on for part two?
Oh yeah. Well, what's your idea of these little people? It seems like they're all over all these Native American, even non-Native American land. They seem to be there, like these little
Hmm.
dwarves, or what do you call them? leprechauns, or it seems to be
Yeah.
all over the world. Well, uh, your idea and the whole medicine man side of these little people?
Yeah, so they're kind of like their own faction of beings. Kind of when it comes to humans, depending on where you come from, they're different, and so they have different characteristics, personalities. Just came back from Montana and visiting the Crow Reservation, and they were telling me stories of little people up in their reservations too, and very similar to relatives I have in the Lakota Reservation too. And even down here in Arizona too, you start having some in Navajo Nation too, and you start going south down toward Tucson area too. Then you start going to Mexico, and then all those people have like stories of little people too.
Wendy's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's always very, even Pacific Islanders too, all over the place they have stories of little
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
And so, like my biggest thing is always like I never want to piss them off or make them mad. So it is always like comes in with respect, like I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie Beverly Hills Chihuahua. I've seen that movie with my little siblings. It's kind of like a little Disney movie. But their
mm,
motto was "We are tiny but mighty." And so I
right,
believe
right.
it, like there's stories of these little people being super stronger than us humans, and
Mm,
when you go to different tribes, they say they can change their size if they want to. They live in remote areas and they want to be left alone most times. But whenever I do go into an area where a tribe kind of mentions little people, I always acknowledge them. I always say, like everywhere I go outside of the reservation, even in our reservation, I always say, I'm always a guest here on this land. And thank you for allowing me to have a safe trip up here. I'm going to leave you this offering. I either leave tobacco or a little bit of food that I have too from my own food. I give it to them, and, always good faith and good respects in that way, because I know I've dealt with a lot of spiritual beings, and I know don't let size be a judge on character. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it's one of those things that like I believe them. I've had a couple experiences with them too, and so maybe we can
yeah,
save that for
yeah,
part two.
yeah,
oh
for
yeah,
sure, for
definitely.
sure.
Can't wait.
But
Sean Clan, can you tell everyone where to find you?
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel, Shanclen Shadow Productions on YouTube. That's where you'll be able to find all my creepy stories. I take viewer submittal stories too, people that go through certain things, and I give my 2 cents on it, my opinions on things to help them out. Paranormal investigations on there as well, and I do have an Instagram at Clen_warrior_SSP. Clen Warrior SSP is my Instagram. And then I also have a second channel too. So if you want to see more so of a lighter side, I have like a yin and yang thing kind of going on. Shanclen Shadow Productions is a paranormal side. Shanclen Shadow Lodge is where I do vlogs. I do storytelling of our native people. I go on adventures, different tribes. Got some content coming up there from that Montana trip. And yeah, Instagram is Clen Warrior SSP. TikTok is Sean Clen SP. So yeah, you can find me pretty much also social medias. Yeah, just go follow me, and then if you guys like spooky stuff, and everybody who may be from my group or anything, and people here that's with these guys too, go follow Don't Whistle at Night podcast and these guys. Send some many blessings to these guys because these guys are really awesome. They're doing a really great thing here, everybody. So go subscribe.
oh yeah,
Don't forget
thank
Sean
you,
Clan.
thank
Don't
you.
forget likewise back to him. Before we end the show, is there any last messages would you like to give to the audience listening?
Hmm. Let me put down some cedar real quick. Let me put on my Grandpa Che jacket real quick. Yeah, kidding. Yeah. Some final words I want to say. Doesn't matter the situation this world may be going through. Doesn't matter what all this stuff is going on in the world. Meet it with a smile. Meet it with happiness, everybody. Try to find understanding and love each other and have that respect for not only each other as people, but also this Mother Earth, Father Sky, and the spiritual beings that still walk among us. If you walk with respect, your life will change forever. So have that love and respect for everybody. We're all human. We all make mistakes. If you're going through a hard time, I'm praying for you, and I hope you can get through it, because everybody has a purpose on this world, and I believe in you. Oh.
Very good. Well
said.
said.
Darren, you want to say later to everyone before I end the show?
Laters.
All right. You want to say last laters again, Shanclen and Darren, before I kick you guys out and close this?
Thank you so much for having me on, you guys. This was really fun.
Yep.
Oh yeah, likewise.
All
It was
right.
a pleasure and an honor.
Oh.
All righty, guys. Ending the show today. Thank you for your time, Shanclen. Thank you again.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for tuning into Don't Whistle at Night. We've been broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Remember, guys, keep your eyes open out there. And remember, don't whistle at
Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.